Hey, welcome to The Perspective today. And on today's program, we're going to cover a subject that is very close to my heart, especially because of the journey that I've gone through with my brother who had Down syndrome. It just opened things up to me to see people who have special needs or medical challenges, how we cope and how we care for people. But helping us today is an author of a book that's called Jewel of Heaven. And Jewel of Heaven is all about the story of Angie Howell, who is a pediatric registered nurse, a mother now of 8 children. That is an amazing accomplishment in herself. But she is also the mother of a child who's very special, no longer a child, a teenager now. Her name is Jade. We're going to hear the story of what happened when Jade was born. But here to tell us about her book that has just recently been released is Angie. Angie, I want to welcome you today to the program. Thanks for coming on The Perspective.
Thank you. Thank you for having me. Very excited to just visit with everyone about this story that God has created in my life.
Well, you know what? This show is being aired all across Canada on several networks and into the States as well. So we're hoping a lot of people are going to catch this story. Not only is it inspiring, but it's just filled with so much truth and promises that people need to understand when they go through those big moments when you just lose your breath. So take us back to that moment. What was like life before you were pregnant with Jade? You have a full house. Like, oh my goodness, you could do a movie on that.
Yes, absolutely. So it was a crazy house, full house. I had 7 children, 5 were at home. I was a pediatric registered nurse and just really feeling this sense of freedom because my 3-year-old was going to preschool, and I thought, wow, I'm at a point where I can just have a little freedom from being the mom duty and really focus on being a nurse. And then I find out I'm pregnant with my 8th baby, and I just see the freedom just slip away.
I was going to ask you maybe these pauses. How did that happen? But you're a nurse. You got all that figured out. You got all that figured out.
Right.
Yeah. So the sense of freedom was boom, out the window.
It was. And I was just so messy at the time in my life. I was on my 3rd marriage. It was rocky already. And I had been a mom at that point for 18 years. And I just wanted that little sense of freedom of maybe I could find myself again, and not in this definition of mom or struggling wife, but how would I look as just a nurse, how just branching off into just a little bit of independence.
Is it possible to be independent when you have all those kids? I don't think so.
Absolutely not. Absolutely not.
So you journeyed through the pregnancy and everything seemed to be perfectly normal at this point?
I had a couple of medical situations that happened during the pregnancy. Of course, I was older. I was 36. And so I just sort of attributed that to being a little bit older mom. And I had a feeling in my gut throughout the pregnancy that something just wasn't right. But everyone reassured me. It was this sort of a false reassurance that everything would be okay. And then she was born, and she was okay. She was beautiful. She was perfect.
But it didn't stay that way. So you have this
No.
beautiful baby and I don't know, but I would think we've had 5 children, and a couple times we were really concerned, especially with our last one. And your emotions can kind of be just like an elevator up and down. Is that not the case?
Oh, goodness. Yes. So as a nurse, I'm watching my baby not do well. But as a mom, I'm fighting that off because I know what's going to come next is probably something that I can't handle. And so as we're at home with Jade, and she gets to the 5th day of life, and I cannot get this baby to eat. I'm at the time was also an international board certified lactation consultant. So I could get any baby to breastfeed. I could not get my own child to breastfeed. And I just realized on the 5th day of life, I looked down at this table, and I had all of my tricks and things that I would use to help other babies. And Jade wouldn't eat. She just wouldn't eat. And I realized she's not lazy. This baby is dying in front of me.
Wow. So
Yeah.
how did you process that? What did you do next? Because you're a medical professional, and sometimes, because I have a couple medical professionals in our home, they're the last to get help.
Yes, yes. And as the nurse, I could see her just getting worse and worse and worse. And so I knew at that moment, I called the doctor at the hospital and I said, look, I have 8 children. I'm a pediatric registered nurse. Something is wrong with my baby. She needs to come back to the hospital. So they directly admitted her into the pediatric intensive care unit. And praise God, I had that relationship with the doctors at the hospital because she was critical when we arrived. Yeah.
And so what did they find? Let's jump ahead in the
So
story.
you bet. So after about a month and a half, we had gone through every specialist you can imagine, but we finally were able to get in with the neurologist and he performed a brain MRI on Jade. And what happened or what we were told is that Jade had a condition called absent myelination of the white matter of her brain. That's a very long medical phrase for basically she had no myelination, no insulation around the nerves, both in her brain, throughout her body. And so her nervous system was just on a constant misfire and she was unable to really communicate throughout her body.
So with all of that happening, um, were you just overwhelmed with a sense of hopelessness and despair?
Yes, yes, absolutely. I was really a lukewarm Christian at the time that Jade was born. It was really focused on what did I want? How did I want things to happen? That kind of thing. And I was not walking with Jesus. And so it was that much more difficult because I didn't have that walk with Jesus. I wasn't putting my trust and my hope and my faith in him. And so when all of this came down on me, it was like the end of the world. I literally felt like I was going to jump off of a ledge. And were it not for the prayers of people around me, that very well may have happened.
So prayer became a very central part in this whole journey. And it's
Yes.
almost like a story being told. I know a little bit of the story now. And suddenly some bikers come to the rescue. But
Oh,
paint
yes.
that story and tell us how God intervened.
Oh, wow. So I was so just in this dark place, I called it the dungeon of my life. I was postpartal. I mean, your wife could tell you, when you have a baby, your emotions are on a roller coaster anyway. Anyone who's had a baby knows this, but then you add on top of it this diagnosis that's fatal. And so I had just gone to a dark place. My cousin Rich, he had had a pretty rough life, but he had found Jesus. And so part of his life at that point was with this biker group. And so they were in the book, I call them the Harley riding, leather wearing, cigarette smoking Christian biker group. And they're my beloved, truly my beloved biker group now because they talked me into praying over Jade and laying hands on her. And it was the thing that made the difference.
Well, so how did that happen? Did they come to your house and did they all gather around and have a smoke and then pray for her? Or
Yeah, oh,
what was the
no.
deal?
No, there was no way I was having them at my house. That was one thing. I felt like I was so above them, I wasn't walking with Jesus, and I just thought, "Well, what are they gonna be able to do for me?" Some of them have been in jail, and a lot of them just have their own issues, and yeah, they were smoking when we pulled up to the house, to go in and have this prayer session. And I just thought, what have I gotten myself into? But Rich was so relentless in his pursuit of just getting us there to pray over Jade. And so I went in, we took Jade in, and it was for me, I was so angry at God. I was just like, let's just get this over with and get back home. And so And I'm standing in the middle of what felt like this bullseye, and I'm holding jade, and all of a sudden, everyone's praying and the hands come out, and I'm just like, wow, what's going on? And I'm looking for the door, and how do I get out of this place? And then they start putting their hands on Jade. And then they start anointing her with their oil. And I just didn't even know what to think. I just wanted to leave as quickly as I could.
Really? So when did you know that Jade had been healed?
So it was later, but I will tell you that when I left angry, but I left changed. And I knew that something had changed in Jade also. I couldn't tell you what it was, but there was something different. I had a peace. I had a calm in my life. Jade was just different. And so we had already scheduled this next brain MRI for when it was about 3 or 4 weeks later. And this one was just going to say, okay, we need a comparison. How much worse is the situation? How much time do we have with Jade? When are we going to have to bury her, basically? And so we go back, we have this other brain MRI, and the neurologist just sits us down and he says, I've been doing this my entire career. He was the head of the Children's Hospital neurology at one point. He was one of the smartest men I've ever met in my life. And he said, I cannot explain this, but her brain is normal.
Wow.
Everything that was wrong is now perfect. I can't explain what happened.
Oh my goodness. What an exciting moment. And we're going to pause
Absolutely.
right at that moment. We're going to come back and talk about your book and the different subjects that you deal with based on this amazing story. But I want to say to our viewers today, are you in need of a miracle? Can I invite you to write me? You can just write Mike at theperspective.tv. I would love to hear your needs so we can pray for you. Or you can call the toll-free number on the screen. It's there below right now, 855-910-6297. There are people there to pray with you. I'm going to be back in just a moment with Angie. Stay tuned. Hey, welcome back to The Perspective. I'm here with Angie Howell, and we're talking about her new book, Jewel of Heaven. It's an incredible story. And if you've been listening to the first part of the interview, you'll fully understand why. But we're going to come back and ask Angie some questions that have really allowed this whole book to be shaped as she's unpacked the story of her own life and also of Jade's life. Maybe it's obvious, Angie, but tell me about the title of the book to start with. How long was that in your mind as you The Jewel of Heaven?
You know, the book started off with a different name, and I did not know when Jade was born that her name meant Jewel of Heaven. I just named her that because it was just Jade was just such a beautiful name. I found out later that it meant Jewel of Heaven.
Oh,
One of the really, really, yeah, and one of the really cool things about a jade, a gemstone, which I didn't even know this until a couple of years ago, is that a jade gemstone is formed from this intense heat, tectonic plate movement, and extremely high pressure. And I just thought to myself, what a better name to name this child after everything we've went through. It's a transformational rock. It's a metamorphic rock. This is exactly what we went through, and Jade went through her entire life.
I love that part of the story. You know,
Yes.
as we listen to a little bit of the humorous and the serious part of the story, you've got an area where you focus on in the book of how God loves misfits. and no one's beyond the reach of his love. Who are you thinking of when you unpack that truth?
Yeah, so I know that Jesus uses the most unlikely people to perform the most extraordinary miracles. I mean, look at who he hung out with. The stinky fishermen, the tax collectors, and I know that Jesus goes that no one is beyond the reach of God's healing. That Jesus is with you in everything. He's with you in the mess. He's with you in all that you go through. So when I talk about the misfits of the story, and it's a messy, messy story, I'm not gonna lie. Everyone and every character that was part of this story was messy in some way. I was messy. My bikers were messy. My marriage was messy. And so it's the misfits. It's the misfits that make this story what it is.
But you have a resounding theme that comes through in the book. And it's that little cliche, but it's been rock solid for you. And that's God answers prayer.
Yes.
Did you believe that before all of this happened? Or was it just more something that you gave mental assent to?
I was that lukewarm Christian, like I talked about. And so I would just pray every once in a while, like, oh, I need this. I want this. I did not even realize the power of prayer until those bikers put their hands on my daughter and prayed over her. And Jesus showed up right there in the middle of that room with the cigarette smoke. I could still smell on their jackets and the leather, the sweat, all of that. And here's Jesus in the midst of all of it.
Do you still keep in touch with these guys?
Yes, I do. I keep in touch definitely with cousin Rich. He's like a brother to me, and the brothers in the Eternal Brothers ministry. They came to my home about a year ago, and we took pictures and we just talked about that day, and it was just amazing. They're truly I can't even say enough about them. They've shared stories with me about how they've gone to churches and they've been turned away because they show up on their Harleys, and that is the misfit that Jesus uses. And I just hope everyone hears this when I say, do not discount who Christ sends to your life to help you find that miracle that you're looking for. And don't discount the power of the biker's prayer.
Okay, so now I want to go on a tangent because I'm a biker as well. Maybe the most important question, did they ever take you for a ride afterwards?
I have gone for a ride with Rich, but Jade has not yet. So we are working on that.
And we're showing a beautiful picture of Jade. She's now, if I'm correct, 18 years of age and beautiful looking girl, just like her mom. And just seeing all of that and how God has just pieced together a beautiful story.
Yes.
So once Jade experienced God's healing, has it been happily ever after? No more issues, no more trials in life? Or how does that work?
Oh, that's just not how miracles work sometimes, right? I mean, yes, Jade lived, she survived, she's had an amazing 18 years of life, but it's been very difficult. She had a G tube, which is a tube that's permanently placed in your stomach. And so I fed her through that for 13 years. That was removed 5 years ago. Jade she's an amazing human being. She's one of the most beautiful human beings. The heart she has is, as your brother, like these kids that have special needs, they have a heart beyond anything that you can even understand. They have a capacity for love beyond anything that I could ever have. And so she has struggled, and she does have cognitive disabilities. But she is truly, I would change nothing about her. She is the most remarkable human being I've ever met.
I understand that statement. Spend so much time with my brother and remarkable gifts and truly a gift from God. And, as we're thinking about that, your book has come out, Jewel of Heaven. Find it at bookstores everywhere and on Amazon. .com.ca for us here in Canada.
Hmm?
And we're excited just to let people know this amazing story. If you could give in the final minute a word to parents who are taking care of children who have special needs, what would it be?
Mm-hmm. I think it would be you're praying for that miracle for that baby who's having seizures every day or who's struggling to learn to walk and keep praying for that miracle. And it may not look like what you're praying for. And if you don't get what you're praying for, find the miracle in every day because there is a miracle in that child that you've been given. That baby, that child was knit together in his or her mother's womb. He or she is exactly how Jesus intended and made him or her to be. Find the miracle in your child. It's there. I promise you, you will see it.
I love that. Thank you, Angie, for sharing that.
You.
Look forward to chatting with you again and hopefully in the near future. We appreciate you coming on The Perspective.